Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode, or is it, of Door to Door. I'm Virginia Stanley, joined by my trusty colleagues. Identify ourselves.
Like we need dun dun dun. Lady Mays. Hi guys.
Hey everyone, I'm Messi.
And yes, so we've been teasing you all along, all dropping some hints here and there, and so we are super excited to share this news with you that the three of us are moving to the Himalayas. No, we have a new platform. We asked you, we heard you, and we know that you have all been so incredibly supportive, listening, chiming in, and hearing our authors, and so many comments on the side of the in the chat room is either I got to read this, or I can't wait to read this, or I'm putting this at the top of my TBR list. And we thought it would be so great if we could make a dedicated galley club. It's not a book club because we care about galleys like these, because once the books are done, we know about them. So welcome to the announcement of the Library Love Fest Galley Club. Dun, da, 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 da. Oh my God, everybody's screaming. Woohoo! Yes. What do you think? So green. It is this is the inaugural announcement of the Library Love Fest Galley Club. So how this is going to work is that the first Tuesday of every month, we will announce what book we are going to be, which title we've selected that we think really lends itself to great discussion. And so that'll be the first Tuesday. We'll tell you a little bit about the book that we've chosen, why we've chosen it, why we think you should read it, love it, and join in the conversation in the next 2 weeks to come. And then we'll get on with a couple of some newsworthy tidbits, and then a couple of books that we want to tell you about. The following Tuesday, next Tuesday, we are going to have people on from the team that has been working on this book. So we will have an editor, a publicist, a marketing director, a publisher, perhaps an art director. So any sort of, variation of 1, 2, maybe even 3 people who've worked on the book and can give you sort of the inside look, the behind the scenes book, behind the pages of what makes this book so special. And a million years ago, there was a program that United for Libraries did, and I think at the time it was called Friends of Libraries USA. We did a book trip, and people found that really interesting because we had various people from different departments who had worked on a book, and so they came. We did this at ALA, and they would talk about their part in the process, starting with the editor and how it was acquired, and then art, design, editing, all of that. And library marketing, what do we do with it? And then ultimately we heard from the author and then a librarian who would say, okay, that's how it came along, and now I have it, and here's how I get it out there, which is basically everything you guys all know anyway. But I think it's all sort of fascinating, to see the inner workings. So first week announcement of the title, why you should love it, why we hope you love it, how do you read it or hear it. The next week is people who will come on from the team of that imprint to talk about that book and maybe a couple of other books that they have coming down the line from their imprint. So you'll hear more about, the celebrated book plus more books. And then the third week will be the author. So by then, hopefully you will have had time to read the book and then engage in a conversation, questions, comments amongst yourself with the author, and we think it'll be a lot of fun. Of course, there will be, you have to go into this knowing that by week 3, spoiler alerts abound. So we hope that that doesn't ruin it for you, but we hope that compels you to read the book so that you can engage in conversation with all aspects of the book with the author. So there is the plan for the Library Love Fest Galley Club. What do you all think? Is anybody watching?
We have, actually a lot, we have a lot of people on, and I'm getting a lot of, okay, here we go. I'm just going to read them. So Jana Lockhart gave us a popping cork and a congrats. Maureen Roberts said, great idea. Anita Slate, love it. Jennifer, yeah, so much fun with a lot of exclamation points. Fun. I can't wait to participate. Sounds awesome. Fun. Lots of hearts. Julie Lupau, I hope I'm saying that right, says, stop it. Brilliant idea. Lisa Holstein, sounds great. Let's see. Yeah, there's lots of love. Great idea.
Awesome.
How do we join? That's a question.
The same way that you would watch Door to Door. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook. And right, Lane, I mean, what else am I missing? You like us on Facebook, and when we make the announcement, we will also make it, remind you, shortcut, here are the e-galleys on Edelweiss, on NetGalley. If it's an audio galley, we'll give you that too. So we're not going to, however it makes it, of course, we'd love to give you all print galleys, but you know the story with that, we never knew how much to print because we weren't going anywhere. So does that answer it? Because if it doesn't, maybe Lena can speak more to it than I.
No, I think that's perfect. Anyway, there's no specific way to sign up. We're not gatekeeping anything. Everything is open to anyone who wants to join. But in order to join in and hear about it is to come to the first one, hear the announcement, download the book, and then come to the other two throughout that celebration, and just follow our socials, follow our newsletter. You're going to see it everywhere. And we also will continue making events in Facebook. So, or Meta, I don't know these days, but it'll have events listed just like they have now. So you can sign up and get reminders. So the best way is just to follow us anywhere you're already following us and how you come to this. But it's not I mean, it is a secret club. We like to think that you're all in our club, but it's available to everybody.
Okay. Does that help? Okay. And I'm sure eventually it will be on a, big bulletin screens, and I was going to say bulletin board because I'm 112 years old, on the big jumbo screens in Times Square, because that's what's going to happen. All right, so shall we, without further ado, ask us questions. So we're going to announce this, tell you a little bit about this, and then we're going to talk about some books that we want to tell you about. But this is super exciting, and like we said, we mentioned it a couple of times, and there was a lot of feedback about it, and so it's going to be as successful as we hope it will be, and that really comes down to engagement. So we hope that you like the books that we have selected, and we hope that you will feel comfortable engaging with our author. I've never seen a librarian not feel uncomfortable engaging with an author, because you guys are so awesome, and we just appreciate what you do, but also your point of view. And so while so much of this is subjective, it's great to hear from other people, and just to hear what your thoughts are. And so it's pretty cool. And so let's not drag it out.
Yeah, all right. Because Casey Davis said, tell me the title, woman. But also, if you want to ask a question for the author when they're on, please send us an email. Like you can talk to us anytime. We would love to hear from you. Yeah. And I mean, we could also figure out a way to, if anybody feels comfortable coming on screen, we can do that too. Kind of think, I mean, it's honestly, however you feel comfortable. If you want to get on and with some FaceTime, great. If you want to just write your questions in, great. Do it ahead of time. You're not going to be available that day. Great. You know how to find us. So there we go. So now, without further ado, the inaugural title being celebrated at the Library Love Fest Galley Club is, slide please. Dun, 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 dun. That's a heart or a kidney. Anyway, love this book. I don't know how many of you have already read it, because we have been talking about it for forever. But this book, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, is, somebody just wrote, oh my God, my favorite book. Susan Riley. Yes, Susan Riley. You don't know how hard it was to not tell you that Remarkably Bright Creatures is our selection for our inaugural Galley Club. So this book goes on sale in May.
And we just love it. So you have, I'd love to know, first of all, let me just see something, dive into some of the praise. I love that. Cynthia Dia-Priest-Sweeney, Kevin Wilson. There's so much love for this book. And at the heart of this book is a conceit that very much like Kevin Wilson's Nothing to See Here. It sounds a little out there, but as anybody knows who has read Kevin Wilson's Nothing to See Here, that book works on every level, and so does this one. This is a story about a woman, a widow, who works at night cleaning, working at this aquarium. This is taking place at the Puget Sound, and she has a friendship with an octopus. That is one of the attractions at the aquarium. When we first meet the octopus, he tells us in his point of view, in his own words, what life is like there. And he feels he's been kidnapped and he's not happy. And so on this just very sort of, I don't know, Lainey and I were trying to discuss yesterday what we were saying. It's not fantasy at all. It's just a given. Like Kevin Wilson's book, Nothing to See Here. When these kids get upset, they go on fire. You can relate. So anyway, this is what happens. We've got this beautiful octopus, this woman, a widow, who is trying to fill up her time by working. She loves to clean. The author based this character on her grandmother. And so that's one level of this book. The other level of this book is that this woman's son gone missing years and years ago. And somehow things start to come to light with the help of the octopus. Now, Lainey, Essie, do we want to talk some more about this? Do we want to share some tidbits?
Yeah, I think, thank you for showing that. We're going to put this everywhere, but that's the schedule for the upcoming weeks, which Virginia, just have to point out in the comments, people are like, I need to know about the cover art. I hope this is covered. Can we bring this in the conversation? And that's great feedback. Like, let us know what you want to hear from the team. And, you'll have your questions for Shelby when she's on, but the team will have questions too. So that's wonderful.
And interesting that came up, because that is something that will be discussed next week, because that jacket art is so arresting. And there is a story behind that jacket art, which will be discussed. So that's so cool that somebody already brought that out.
Yeah.
I just say one thing. The on sale is May, so it's on this thing. This is, I'm so sorry, but on Edelweiss they've got it wrong. It says the library reads deadline is February 1, and that is not true. It is April 1. So ignore that where it says deadline date to vote for library reads is Feb 1. That must be fixed, and we will fix it because it is April 1. Because as you all know, it's the first day of the month prior to on sale. Bygones, we'll fix it. Anyway, so we have a couple things that we want to show. We have some slides of love. Essie, do you want to show those?
So, sorry. Love.
Quotes.
I think we had the quotes with the
That was the
underwater, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought those were separate. We have an audio clip.
Yeah, and it's ALC, an advanced listener copy, so you guys can listen to it on Edelweiss and NetGalley. I'll put the link in just a second. But let's hear a little, because as Andrew Kaberline, who comes on our podcast for the audio marketing team, always says, it's our best friend, Marin Ireland, who's doing this one. And we love her so much. So let's hear a little clip.
And Michael Urie.
Oh, and Michael Urie, yes. Right.
Day 1299 of my captivity. Darkness suits me. Each evening I await the click of the overhead lights, leaving only the glow from the main tank. Not perfect, but close enough. Almost darkness, like the middle bottom of the sea. I lived there before I was captured and imprisoned. I cannot remember, yet I can still taste the untamed currents of the cold, open water. Darkness runs through my blood. Who am I, you ask? My name is Marcellus, but most humans do not call me that. Typically, they call me that guy. For example, look at that guy. There he is. You can just see his tentacles behind the rock. I am a giant Pacific octopus. I know this from the plaque on the wall beside my enclosure. I know what you are thinking. Yes, I can read. I can do many things you would not expect. The plaque states other facts, my size, preferred diet, and where I might live were I not a prisoner here. It mentions my intellectual prowess and penchant for cleverness, which for some reason seems a surprise to humans. Octopuses are remarkably bright creatures, it says. It warns the humans of my camouflage, tells them to take extra care in looking for me in case I have disguised myself to match the sand. The plaque does not state that I am named Marcellus, but the human called Terry, the one who runs this aquarium, sometimes shares this with the visitors who gather near my tank. See him back there? His name's Marcellus. He's a special guy. A special guy. Indeed. Terry's small daughter chose my name. Marcellus McSquiddles, in full. Yes, it is a preposterous name. It leads many humans to assume I am a squid, which is an insult of the worst sort. How shall you refer to me, you ask? Well, that is up to you. Perhaps you will default to calling me that guy, like the rest of them. I hope not, but I will not hold it against you. You are only human, after all. I must advise you that our time together may be brief. The plaque states one additional piece of information: the average lifespan of a giant Pacific octopus. 4 years. My lifespan. 4 years. 1,460 days. I was brought here as a juvenile. I shall die here, in this tank. At the very most, 160 days remain until my sentence is complete.
Yeah. So, see, we love him. I love that he hates that his name is McSquiddles.
Very funny.
Yeah,
Everybody's saying they're hooked.
I
Good.
know. I know. It's just as much fun to listen to it as it is to read it. And Marin Ireland is such a phenomenal. Actually, she did the recording for Nothing to See Here, which is so good. If you haven't listened to that audio, it's terrific. So even if you've read it, you should definitely check out the audio. Marin Ireland is she's a wonderful actress, and I don't know, there's nothing she can't do. And every book that she's recorded for us, as you were saying, Lainey, just, she just brings it, and everything is different. It's so nuanced. It's fabulous. She's so, so good. So very exciting to not only have this book and to have these two people recording this book. It's really something. That's a special treat. We're so excited when we found out that happened.
Yeah. I feel like also maybe it's good to point out that, like, if that seems kind of wacky and that's not your thing, there's a whole other part of this book with this older woman and a young boy who comes to town. Well, young, he's in his 20s, but he comes to town, and kind of their unlikely friendship, and they work at the aquarium together. It's really sweet. So if you're a little caught up in the, like, what's what's this about the octopus? Like there's so much more in this book, and the octopus is just steals the show, let me tell you. But there's so much heart in this book, and it's so sweet. Oh,
Yeah, it really is. It's hard to explain, and we don't want to take away the fun of diving into this world. But the characters are just they're so well drawn, and there's a lot of heart in this book, and there's some sadness, and it's tender, and and the backstory is really cool. And as I say, she'll be on in the third week with some great stories about how she came to write this book. I mean, she is from the Pacific Northwest, but I'm not going to go into that because that's all Shelby, and we can't wait for you to. She's got some great stories about what the motivation was to write this book. It's really cool, and look, this may be an octopus, but it's all about love. It's all about connecting, and yeah, and I think you're just going to love it. So, but again, spoiler alerts. So, in the chat room, what do we have in there? We have the links to the E and the audio.
mm-hmm.
And
somebody did ask about downloading audio. So Amy, if you request it on Edelweiss or NetGalley, you can Edelweiss you can download directly to your computer and listen, or your phone. NetGalley, you can use their app. That's how you download. If you have any questions, send us an email. We'll get you set up.
Yeah. So that's can't wait to have her on to talk about it, to talk about everything. And
fun.
The raves just keep coming in, so there's a lot of love here. Okay, so that's our announcement, and we're very happy to share this with you, and we'll see you next week. We have other stuff to talk about, but next week we are going to have the publisher of Echo Press and the editor for this book on. So and they will address a lot of different things, including that fabulous jacket. And then the third week will be the author herself. So that's our news. And then there's always a random Tuesday where something's going on. Maybe February 22nd. Yes, for sure. Jess Walter. We're going to have Jess Walter on. He's got a fabulous collection of short stories coming out. Beautiful Ruins. Who didn't read Beautiful Ruins? Hang up and go read that right now because it's so amazing. I love Beautiful Ruins. Cold Millions. Jess Walter's amazing. So we're going to have him on the 22nd, and I can't wait for that. And yeah, that's going to be super cool. He's terrific. So now, more things to talk about. Essie, take it away. Oh, wait, this is the YouTube. Okay, Essie, YouTube. You got to talk about the T-shirt. Lainey, you got to talk about our revamped YouTube channel.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I know that everyone seemed to really like this shirt. I'll tell my mall vendor friend that everyone said so. I thought it was so cool. I just wanted to do something to represent this new thing that we're starting with BAM, Book a Minute Mondays. It's so cool. We take 1 minute, and it's totally easy. It's not hard at all to explain a book and just how amazing it is and why in 1 minute, 60 seconds. And I just think it's awesome, and I wanted to get a shirt to celebrate it. And we have our first 3 minutes on YouTube now on our new channel that Lainey is going to talk about.
Yeah, thanks. That's great. So I want to show you our revamped YouTube. If you were watching about 2 minutes before we went live, I changed to Galley Club. So surprise.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yes, this is our new page. We really wanted to fill it out and give you something like 3 days a week that you could go and find new book recommendations. Some are smaller, some are longer. It's a way to dive in and really participate and hear from the author themselves. But I will say, some people don't have Facebook, so we wanted to also offer it on YouTube. So that's the impetus behind our revamp. So as you see, we have our lovely schedule at the top. We have our sizzle reel from door to door. That's super fun. Now each section is listed. So we have Book a Minute Mondays. We're going to have our door to door, which will also include our galley clubs now. And our podcast, for accessibility reasons, we're putting it on YouTube so you can get the transcript if that's helpful to you. or you just want a different way to listen, totally fine. But it's also where you get podcasts, but it will also be on the YouTube page. So that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Obviously, under the radar, everything will be here if you need it, but those are at the top. Do you guys want to, if you haven't heard Book a Minute, do you want to hear our really fun intro that we have? I think they do. Let's see. I'm going to leave it there. You can go.
Same shirt. Same shirt.
That's funny. You can go and listen to the rest. It's only 3 minutes. It's super bite-sized. We had a lot of fun doing them.
Lainey, you were so funny. And it was really cool. And it's very digestible. So I think it was Christopher Platt wrote on my Facebook page. So hard to do to describe a book in 60 seconds. I'm like, yeah. And every time I did it, I said something different about the book because it's impossible. Anyway, but it's super fun. And so we hope you check that out and spread the word. All right, Lainey, maybe the revamp looks awesome. So now, Lainey, you want to talk about library reads and some books that you're getting out there?
Yes, I am. Well, one second. I'm putting so on YouTube, the website at Library Love Fest, putting it in the chat. There you go. Yeah, so I just want a quick reminder to everybody. Today's the last day to vote for the March Library Reads list. We have a few e-cards. Obviously, we have lots of other wonderful titles that I'll put in the chat. Just quickly, don't forget about Peter Swanson's 9 Lives. He's been on the list before. He's lovely. John Searles, Obvi, we love John. And he was just on our Facebook Live with Kate Quinn, so we'll put that link in there for you to listen. The Rose Code author, Kate Quinn, who just got an Alex Award, which we'll talk about in a minute. The Diamond Eye coming out, and those votes are February 1st as well. So those are just 3 books that we have e-cards for. There's a whole bunch, so don't forget to vote today, and we hope to have a podcast episode for you soon about winners. Yeah,
because Lainey got had this wonderful idea to interview authors who have made the list, and it's super fun to have this conversation with them because they're just like out of their minds. They're so happy. So that's a very cool, authentic reaction to capture. So, and I know, Lainey, you mentioned the John Searles and Kate Quinn just did a Facebook Live. So if you didn't catch it, is it in the chat, the link, or it will be?
It will be in 1 second.
Yeah. That was a really cool, they had not met before. So it was nice to have them on in the beginning to talk a little bit. And then they went on and talked about their forthcoming books. It's really cool. They're very different books, but the one thing that those two have in common, they love libraries and they vote with their feet. They go. So either one, if anybody's looking for John Searles or Kate to come virtually or physically, let us know. All right. Next up, ALA or LLX, Licks. That happened. And maybe some of you went. And as you know, books or committee members get together and they decide which books made their top lists. Alex Awards, 10 books, 10 adult books that have YA crossover appeal that tick all the boxes, and we got 3 of them. I mean, this is amazing. So, Lainey, do you want to just talk about these fast? Because you have interviewed all of these authors.
Yeah. How Lucky by Will Leach. Super fun. It's a fiction debut by a really well-known sports writer. Will is fabulous. We had him on with the Mary Jane author, Jessica Anya Blau. That was a super fun interview. It's hard to talk about this book because I really love this one. It's, if you're a fan of Kevin Wilson as well, like it's up that alley. It's a person who has a disability who kind of can only stay at their house, and he takes it upon himself to be kind of the unlikely person to solve this murder. It's got a little bit of everything for everyone, and it'd be great obviously for YA readers. Rose Code takes place at Bletchley Park, and then after the war, and it has some famous people coming in and out, including some royals. And then the 100 Years of Lenny and Margot is, I am really jealous of anyone who gets to read that for the first time. That is just a beautiful book with a lot of emotion. get your tissues ready. I warned you, but it's so worth it. About a girl who's 17 on the May ward of a hospital who is dying, and a 83-year-old woman who kind of is ready. Her life is kind of over, but they become unlikely friends, and they decide they have 100 years between them. So they tell stories back and forth. It's really beautiful. All right.
And
I love them so much. I'll stop talking.
No, it's so, you know what? We've always said this, the more we love a book, the harder it is to talk about it. And you kept saying to me, you're going to love this book.
Yeah.
And I did. And I, when you say you're just envious of anyone who gets to read it for the first time, there are a handful of books I feel that way about. This is definitely one of them, because if they all deliver, and they're all so different. But anyway, we're really excited and proud to have these 3 books on the Alex Award list of 10 books out of the year. Unbelievable. So, okay, so that's that. And notables, I'm sure a lot of you know about the notables, but we have 2 books on the fiction list. After Parties by Anthony Viesnus. No, so sorry, and Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois, Honoré Fanone Jeffers, and nonfiction. So we have Beyond by Stephen Walker and Pastoral Song by James Rebanks. So that is very cool. And quickly, here are the codes list, the reading list. Historical fiction short list, relation. You can see all this, but we just wanted to bring these out to you. Reading list is so good, and rose cut again. And okay, big congratulations to the listen list. This is a very cool book. And if you didn't catch this author, Jennifer Keeshan Armstrong, when she was on Facebook Live, this is a really, really interesting book about women and television, and how in the very beginning of television, men were like, you go on and have that TV all you want, because nobody's going to buy these things because they're too big. Radio's where it's at. And they're like, oh yeah, fine. And so this was all about the women behind television. And we were just talking before about Betty White. There was that great special last night. We're talking about how wonderful she was. And there's a great piece on our Facebook Live interview with this author that we put into the chat room, and we just you should go back and listen to the whole thing. It's really cool. The book is really cool. It made the listen list, but this one section that it's about, I don't know, what did I say? It was like 40. It was like, I don't know, 10 minutes or something.
4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to play it. We don't have to play it, but you can play a couple seconds of it if you want to. But it's a very, very cool piece of her talking about Betty White. And I think maybe just go back and listen to it, because it talks about all about how she was, sort of like the first person that did daytime, had her own talk show. And she was on for 5.5 hours every day, riffing with one other person. And it is the most fascinating thing. Some of you want to play a little bit of it, Essie?
I think Lainey's got it.
When I was investigating her character on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, if people watched that, she was this character called the Happy Homemaker. She had her own show on the network where Mary's character worked, and she had this wonderful character where she was so sweet, and she had, it was kind of like a Martha Stewart thing. She had a cooking show and a homemaking show, and so on screen on the show, she was like the sweet, they called her sickly sweet persona, and then the minute the cameras turned off, she was very not sweet at all. She was very, very acerbic and cutting and insulted everyone, but always with a beautiful smile on her face. And she, in fact, herself, Betty, used the B word to describe, her character on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, and she loved being able to do that because it was so different for her. But the way that character was described in the first script that she was in was a Betty White type, sickly sweet on camera. And I thought, I don't know that. I only know Betty White from The Golden Girls, which, yeah, she's sweet, but it didn't quite jive for me. And so when I looked into it, I found out she had this incredible career already. By the time she was on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, it was her first comeback in the 70s. She had been on television in the late 40s, starting around 49, into the 50s, and had one of the first daytime talk shows. And when I say daytime, what I actually mean is 5.5 hours a day, 6 days a week, this woman, they didn't know what to do with the daytime hours on television yet, which I think is very funny. They literally didn't know what to do. So one idea in Los Angeles was put Betty White on for 5.5 hours a day. She co-hosted a show with a guy who was a former DJ on the radio. And they had originally started out with this idea that they were actually just gonna play records and sit there. Just like it was a radio show. They didn't know what to do. And so, you know, she'd be on, this guy named Al Jarvis was the guy. And they would have the record play. And while they were playing the record at first, the first couple episodes, she and he would like be chatting, like the audience couldn't hear them. They could hear the record, but they could see them chatting. This is all bizarre right now. Early television is bizarre. And the audience complained that they couldn't hear, they really wanted to hear what Al and Betty were saying, they didn't want to hear the record. So they got rid of the record, started just doing improv for 5.5 hours a day, 6 days a week, and really started to invent a lot of the tropes that eventually become pretty standard in daytime-ish shows, whether we're talking about something like Ellen or Oprah or more like the Today Show. These were all, you know, they did some like they.
I just think that's, you know, that is so fascinating. And how do you do that, you know? But she did it. She really, as she said, when the time she came on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, that was her comeback. So it's a great book, and we're thrilled that it made the listen list. And if you have a chance, go back and watch that interview with that author, because she's just got so much information and just a very well researched book and fascinating. Is that all we have for our awards? No, we have the cookbooks. Yum. So that Julia Turston book is so cool. You know, we're thrilled to have both of these books. This was a former HMH book, now our HarperCollins book, Baking with Dory, by Dory Greenspan. So congratulations to them as well. Super fun. All right, so that's our big announcement. And we have a couple books to talk to you about. So the next 20 minutes, we'll talk about some books, and then we'll see you next Tuesday. All right. Essie?
This is me. Okay, everyone. Just take a quick look at this cover for a second. I think it's amazing. And if this doesn't give you a clue as to how talented and innovative Janelle Monáe is, then I'm not really sure what will. Actually, no, that's not true. I will. I want to inform everyone of what the talent behind this woman is. This is an 8-time Grammy-nominated Screen Actors Guild Award and Critics' Choice Award winning, just unstoppable force of nature. If you need more to be convinced of her multi-talented personality, just look up the song Say Her Name, because it's revolutionary in herself. Janelle is a singer and songwriter. She's an actor. She's a fashion icon. And most importantly, she's an activist who fights for what she believes in. And just this incredibly broad spectrum range of creativity. And the Memory Librarian feeds off of this former mythos behind it, which was The Dirty Computer, which was nominated for a Hugo Award for Dramatic Presentation, which is awesome. And it touches on subjects surrounding all matters of liberation. She tackles identity expression by putting you in a world that's just not allowed. She tackles technology by putting you in a world where your own thoughts are controlled by someone else who's convinced themselves that they have the right to do that. And just take a moment to see how that parallels what some women are facing today, which, you know, with others controlling what they can and can't do because they've controlled them, or they've convinced themselves that they know better. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. She tackles like queerness, race, gender plurality, and like love, and all of this is in a totalitarian landscape, just to magnify the juxtaposition between freedom and control. What's so easy to love about this book and Janelle in general, and is actually one of the biggest reasons why Harper Voyager wanted to work with her, is that she takes so much of her work and she makes it, or she just bases it on speculative themes. But here's a catch. She combines dystopian and utopian themes so well that she mirrors what's going on in our world today. And it's completely eye-opening and kind of jaw-dropping when you see it. She is working with a lot of really great writers here. Danny Lore, Alea Dawn Johnson, Cherie Renee Thomas, just to name a few. That makes this a really stellar collection to add to the hashtag Own Voice community. And she just has an amazing fan base. She's huge in the LGBTQ plus community, and she's just absolutely one to know about if you don't already know about her. This is out April 19th. Okay, skipped one here. Hold on. There it is. Okay, sorry, my computer froze for a second. Okay, I cannot be the only Star Trek fan here, I'm sure, right? You know him as Wesley Crusher from Star Trek Next Generation. I know him as my first TV crush. Or you might know him as Evil Will Wheaton from The Big Bang Theory, or you just might know him from his massive social media presence. Either way, Will Wheaton is one of the most respected names in science fiction, and it's very, very obvious why. Still Just a Geek is not just a memoir, but it's an annotated memoir, and I just think that's the coolest. If you've ever seen any of his posts, you know that this guy is just really, really funny. He has the kind of dry wit that you kind of build over time when you've been asked about your galaxy adventures too much. So the thought of reading his book which is based on a memoir, his former memoir, Just a Geek, that came out in 2001, with this is all new content and his own commentary, which is kind of just the icing on top. Needless to say, he is perfect for science fiction fans and science fans in general. And most importantly, I think one of the best parts of his book is that he's very candid about his own mental health journey. To quote him, "Confronting and learning from my mistakes has allowed me to complete my own origin story." I think that's an awesome way to say it. Any great character has an origin story, some more complex than others, and I think he really managed to pull it together really well for old fans and new fans that'll most likely come with his new book. This is out April 12th. Okay. And The Measure. This one is the only one that's not out in April. This is in June 28th. Okay, last one for me, I promise. I'm here to talk about a debut novel, and that's my favorite kind. I truly love, I love introducing new talent in debut novels. It's my favorite. This is The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. This is set to be published in June. And it's also being published or translated into 9 different languages, which is great because it fits the premise of this book, because this book is worldwide. Okay, let's take a moment to wonder something kind of crazy. If you look down at your shoelace or just look at a piece of thread dangling from your sweater, just see how long that string is and equate it to the amount of years that you have left to live. That's what Nikki has set up with this book. That's the premise. She forces all of her characters to face a question that we've probably wondered once or twice, which is, if you knew how long, like if you had the chance to know how long you would have to live, would you want to know? Going back to my little example, one day everyone wakes up to see they have a box waiting for them with their name on it. Inside the box is a string that varies in length according to how much time or how many years you have left. And so the mad stories begin, like pen pals finding refuge in the unknown, a couple who didn't know how much time they had left and how they have to hurry now, to a doctor that's trying to do everything he can to save himself. But in the battle between fate and science, who wins? This story is literally Sonder in a box. It's just, what would you do if you woke up to find the same thing? Would you ignore it? Would you even open it? Would you kick it out of frustration? I don't know. That's probably what I would do, actually. The point is that this is the perfect companion book for dealing with what the world's going through right now. It's not exactly a pandemic, but with all the uncertainty and madness, it sure feels like one. So it's good to help you realize what you would want to do for yourself, what you would do in this situation, and just like what you would want for yourself, or how you would fight it, or if you would fight it if you had the injustice of having a short string. So anyway, this was a major acquisition for us. This is we're so happy to have Nikki Ehrlich under our roof. She's amazing. I don't know if you guys have ever looked up her website, or if you've ever seen anything about her, but she has photos on her website that just make her look like a warrior. She's somebody you would want to she's somebody you would want to follow into battle because she's so worldly and she has so many adventures under her belt. It's just really great. She's the perfect person to write this story, the perfect person to lead us through this just premise, which is crazy and wise and very fitting for our time. That's due out in June, so votes due May 1st. That's it for me.
Alrighty, first one I want to tell you about is Essential Labor by Angela Garbez. So this is the acclaimed author of Like a Mother, which was really, really successful. And she is just kind of she has started this conversation, this new canon of writing about motherhood and kind of a leading voice in the field. And so this is her second book after Like a Mother. And with COVID-19, it kind of shed this new light that there was this overlooked truth that mothering is among one of the most essential works humans can do. You know, all these kids were home and that really took a toll. And so she found herself really pondering the question of like how under our current circumstances that leave us lonely and exhausted and financially strained might we demand more of the American family life. And so this book really takes that and she kind of breaks it down. She's a first generation Filipino American, and she really shares the perspective of her family's complicated relationship to care work and placing mothering in a really global context, especially like the demands of women of color. And she has a great TED Talk, if you have a chance to check it out, about what that really means, and a lot of people placing mothering on other people and those people that are taking that responsibility up. And so, like I said, she just reframes this physically and mentally draining work. It's a really cool, fascinating study of mothering. And her work has appeared in so many, like the New York Times, The Cut, Bon Appetit. Like she's everywhere, and she really knows what she's talking about. And it's going to be a really essential book to this really topical discussion. So that's Essential Labor, and that is coming out in May.
Okay. I think we have the slides in a certain order, so we're gonna go back to you.
Oh, do you want me to keep going, or do you want to do Wise Women?
Well,
I
don't have the jacket. I don't think we have the jacket up, but I can talk about it.
It's up now.
It is? Oh, okay, great. Okay, great. So this is Wise Women by Gina Sorrell. This comes out in April. And this is very funny. This is a woman whose name is Wendy Wise. And she's an advice columnist. And so this is a story about her and her daughters. Hence, the Wise Women. Wendy Wise has been advising women for forever, 4 decades. And but her daughters' lives are kind of a mess. Why is that? So one is the working mother of a 6-year-old boy who's just discovered that her husband was secretly funneling their mortgage payments on their house into his flailing startup. So yeah, that didn't go out so well. These daughter and her other daughter, Barb, has overextended herself at this architecture firm and reunited semi-unhappily with her cheating girlfriend. So you see, 2 of the Wise Women are having a tough time. And the popular advice columnist, their mother, Wendy, is telling everybody how to have a perfect life. So there you go. Mothers, daughters. What could go wrong? Everything. Lots of tension, but lots of love. It's humorous. It's tender. It's, it's tough stuff, but it's also, childhood stuff and unveiling and revealing and secrets and hurt feelings and all of that. And she's really a great writer. I really love the characters in this book, and I really love the way they related to each other, and also couldn't relate to each other in certain ways. And come on, who doesn't know about this story? Her debut novel was called Mothers and Other Strangers, and that was back in 2017, and that did real well. We did not publish it, but I'm glad we're publishing this one. So it's light in tone, but there's also some real heavy Chevy stuff going on here. So I hope you pick it up. I think I know we have a real winner on our hands here. Let's see, what do I want to tell you about this? It's 100,000 announced print. That's to tell you something. You can download it right now, Edelweiss. It goes on sale in April. And yeah, it's got humor and compassion, and as I said, the tension between mothers and daughters, and it just explores all that disconnect in our childhood dreams. My favorite kind of stuff to talk about. Okay, so that's me. Lane, you want to take another one?
Yeah, Essie, can you go back to Woman of Endurance for me? Thank you. I want to make sure to get this one in before we go. So, A Woman of Endurance by Dalma Llanos Figueroa. So she is was born in Puerto Rico and raised in New York City, and she wait for it, taught creative writing, language, and literature, but she became a young adult librarian. So one of our own. And then her first novel, Daughters of the Stone, was listed as a 2010 finalist for the Penn Robert W. Bingham Prize in 2019. And she's had a lot of short stories appear in anthologies. And this book, like, look at the cover, it's just gorgeous. But it is set in the 19th century in Puerto Rico on a plantation. Pola is a deeply spiritual African woman who's captured and later sold for the purposes of breeding future slaves. She obviously loses faith with everything that's guided her, and she really becomes embittered and defensive. And so, with all these terrible things in her life, she has to really go on a journey to healing. And she moves on to receive a lot of compassion from and support from the community around her. So it's, again, very, heavy. There's a lot of things, especially with this topic, it's going to be heavy, but it's not one of defeat. It's a really great story of survival and reclamation of common humanity. And it is kind of a well-known but little discussed part of history in the Latinx community. So this is great to explore it. And I have a couple of quotes that I think would do really good to explain it. So Cristina Garcia, who wrote Dreaming in Cuban, said, "It's a new classic of Caribbean literature. With exquisite, patient, poetic prose, Dalma illuminates the world of 19th century Puerto Rico haciendas and the slavery on which they depended. By telling the story through the eyes of Pola, one of these slaves, she's written the grand epic that Pola and other forgotten women of endurance richly deserve." And then Marcel Vera, the Taste of Sugar author, said, her novels are necessary to Puerto Rican literature as rice and beans are to the Puerto Rican diet. A Woman of Endurance should be taught as both history and literature of the Las Americas. It cements her as an urgent and critical voice for our times. Her rigorous and compassionate attention to the human experience or the horrific legacy of enslaved Black people in Puerto Rico is a triumph for literature, Puerto Rican and otherwise, and a testament to the enduring spirit of human beings. That's a crazy great quote. I think those do really well to sum it up. So I just really want this on your radar. I think it's an important book and something we need to discuss. It's A Woman of Endurance. It comes out in April 12th.
Gorgeous cover, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Essie, I don't know if you can scroll down to Blood Will Tell by Heather Chavez. We only have a few minutes left, but I'll squeeze them in. Squeeze them in. Oh, look at that. Creepy. Oh my God. Haunting. Okay. So this is from the author of No Bad Deed, which was such a great book. And if you haven't read it, I highly recommend that you do. It got great raves from Booklist, gave it a star review, called it an explosive beginning that quickly spirals into a tense family drama. No, that was San Diego Union Tribune. Booklist says an extraordinary thriller that may well become the book everyone is talking about. Hello. Lee Child called it a sensational debut. Lisa Gardner said the kind of twisty jet-fueled thriller that explodes on page one and has you happily abandoning work, sleep, and life as you race to the stunning end. Yes, that is No Bad Deed. So, she's back with Blood Will Tell, and it's about these two sisters, a school teacher and single mother, Frankie Barrera. She's always been protective of her younger sister, Izzy, whether Izzy wants her to or not. Izzy's risky choices have tested her older sister's loyalty, but never so much as 5 years ago when a frantic phone call led Frankie to the scene of a car accident where Izzy was there drunk out of her mind and very disoriented, couldn't remember a thing. Six friends were partying that night on the outskirts of town, and one girl was never seen again. Now, fast forward, there's an Amber Alert that puts Frankie in the sights of the local police. Her truck has been described as the one used in an abduction of a girl from a neighboring town. And the only other person with access to Frankie's truck is Izzy. Okay, so it sets it up for a great, sister dynamic. They're very, very different. And they share a strong bond despite, their opposite personalities, and they have shared secrets between them, and it brings them closer together than ever before. But it's fraught. Where am I going with all this familial friction today, Lainey and Essie? I don't know, but I don't care because she's such a good writer, this woman. She could tell a hell of a story. So please, Heather Chavez, Blood Will Tell. Blood Will Tell. April 26, 2022. And like I said, if you haven't read No Bad Deed, run, don't walk. Lainey, back to you. We have 2 minutes left. Can we do it? Of course we can, because we can also go over 3 o'clock.
Familial friction. Oh, love that.
That should be a new category in a book club catalog that we create. Never.
Yeah. It would be a good one. All right, I'm going to try to be fast. I love Vari McFarland. Yes, it's spelled like Mahari, but it is Vari. And I love this author so much. And an editor told us the other day that a book was romantic plus, and I think that's a perfect way to explain Vari, because, we love a romance novel. I know I do, and that's totally great. But there's some books that are like, it has so much more. It kind of lives within this women's fiction space, but there's so much more about the character and like the journey they're going to. And that romance is kind of a plus. And this is the definition of that. I love Vari. And her last couple of books, I believe, If I Never Met You, and was it Just Last? Don't You Forget About Me. Those 2 books were Library Reads picks. So I know you guys love her too. And she's she's born in Scotland, and she's so lovely. I mean, I love these books, but this one is about a wedding photographer. She's very high in demand, Harriet. She doesn't believe in romance, and kind of surprises her when her longtime partner proposes. She kind of panics. She's like, no, thank you. And now she's suddenly single and living down the hall from her ex. And then we have Cal, who's the love interest. He's a hopeless romantic who just experienced his own wedding-related disaster. And they're very different, but now all of a sudden they go from strangers to roommates, and now they're friends. And so like he's kind of a calm in the storm, in the storm that is her life. And so, will they turn out to be together? But like I said, she has such a great way of doing characters, and it's emotional. If I Never Met You was wonderful because the person was going through like a really bad breakup. And so you got to kind of feel this emotional, raw journey she's on. And I know that Vari does that well. So I hope that you pick it up, even if you're not a romance fan. She does such a beautiful job. And then Emily Henry, Emily Henry, people we met on vacation, author. She said she writes with a singular wit, charm, and emotional complexity, every word just right, every page brimming with delicious tension. So I will leave you with that. I'm very excited about this book.
Nice. Very nice. All right. And the last book, and then we'll let you guys go, because it's we've filled your head with lots of information today. But what's the title presentation? And why can't I talk today? What's the title presentation without a mention of Lynnwood Barker? New York Times best-selling author of Find You First, an elevator pitch. This is another gripping psychological thriller. He is a writer, as critics say, he's a writer who leaves you on the edge of your seat reading these books. And this is about a formerly missing woman who was suddenly returned under mysterious circumstances. So we meet this man, Andrew Mason, and when he was on a fishing trip one weekend, his wife, Bree, vanished without a trace. And everybody thought that Andy had something to do with it. It's always the husband, isn't it? Maybe, maybe not. But the police could never build a strong case against him. And so for a while, he hit rock bottom. He drank. He just lost his business, and everything went to hell. Eventually, 6 years later, he pulls himself together. He sells the house that he had shared with her. It was raised, a new house was built. He settled down with somebody new, and his life is better. And then it's shattered because one day a woman shows up at that where the side of the old house was, and she's screaming, "Where's my house? What happened to my house?" And then she's gone again. And so she bears a striking resemblance to Bree, the woman who disappeared. And the police are notified, and old questions and dark suspicions resurface, and everybody's saying, could it really be her? Is she really alive? Was that Bree? So where's she been? Where'd she go? And everybody's now looking at Andy again. So a missing woman, a husband suspected. The truth will take your breath away.
Dun, dun, dun.
Da, da, da. Lynnwood Barker, May 2022. God, that guy can write. And what a sweet man he is, too. We've had him at ALF.
He did a great podcast. We did this fun podcast where we had like a line from each book, and then you guessed at the end what author was describing their book. It was super fun. And he had probably one of the best and first takes. And that was it. He just did one take, and it was one of the best that we did. It was great. I'll put a
Can we
link
get
to
that?
it.
It'd be fun to find that.
I'll put a link to it in the chat.
Yeah. That was a BEA. Why does I think that? I don't remember.
Is that what?
Is it a book expo? Did we do that? A book
That was at but not ButcherCon, the mystery one that's in New York every year. Thriller writers.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the name, but it was a thriller conference.
Yeah. So listen, everyone, we've filled your heads with lots of things. We're so excited about this. We hope that you are too. We hope you dip into our inaugural book. Can we show the slide one more time and put the jacket up there and just remind people of this beautiful art. And the beautiful art is just the beginning of this beautiful story. And we hope that we hope it wraps its tentacles around your heart. Yep, it's a wonderful story. It's so perfect. So, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt is our inaugural Galley Club pick. We're so excited. We hope you read it or listen to it. Come back next Tuesday and hear about the book from the back of the jacket, and the person who acquired it, the publisher, the editor, and lots of insight to different aspects of the book. So including that beautiful jacket. So thanks so much. And we'll be back next week. And then the following week, we'll be with the author. And then the following week, don't forget, we have Jess Walter. Will be talking with us about his book, Angel of Rome, which is a collection of short stories, which is just wonderful. It's all about people who sort of put themselves out there a certain way, but what's really happening on the inside. And it's just sort of spans from Italy to Idaho, and it's just all over the place, and in the very best sense of the word. I mean, it's just got these wonderful stories and these vignettes and these just, it's really about, in a way, about front-facing social media and what we put out there, but the real authentic lives that are going on behind that. And he's a beautiful writer. And speaking of beautiful, beautiful ruins, have I mentioned beautiful ruins? Okay, that's enough. It's 3:06. We say goodbye. We raise a glass to our new venture, a Galley Club. Lainey, Essie, librarians, come along for the ride. Let's have some fun. And we'll see you next Tuesday.
No. Gonna ruin my illusion. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye, all.